For the past few weeks, our national affairs correspondent Jonathan Lea has been working behind the scenes on a One Nation exclusive that looks at the rise of the party, Pauline Hanson, Barnaby Joyce and what's behind the surge in popularity. It airs this Sunday night at 8:30 p.m. on Sky News. Here's a quick look at what you'll be seeing.
I'm not going to be forced into political correctness and lies.
Is One Nation aiming to form a giant coalition?
Meet the woman behind the headlines.
I'm back. People are starting to realise that you've been right the whole time.
As social divisions rise, could Australia's most controversial party really be the answer?
What do you think of those who think you're stupid?
People underestimate me.
How many seats do you think you can win?
The rise of One Nation, Sunday at 8:30.
Jonathan Lea joins me live. So, Jono, you've been diving into the question that is central right now to politics. Well, right across the nation, it's going to have a big play in the South Australian election and also the federal one as well. Who's voting One Nation, where their preferences might go and what it will mean for seats. What have you learned so far?
Well, good afternoon to you, Tom. I can tell you the hype is very much real. We're not talking about grizzly retirees who are angry about the world. We went out with Pauline Hanson and with Barnaby Joyce, and it was young Australians, it was young families, and it was, perhaps surprisingly to me, migrants coming up to Pauline Hanson, voicing their support for her and talking about how enthusiastic they were when it came to voting for her or looking forward to voting for her. So that certainly caught me by surprise when we went to Tamworth for Barnaby Joyce. We had him in a drift car. He was meeting the punters there, and there was no shortages of pictures and selfies and people flocking. We had a night with him where 200 people paid $100 a head to come and listen to One Nation, to him and Malcolm Roberts talk. It's an extraordinary movement that's happening out there at the moment. I spoke with Barnaby Joyce about this idea of a sensible centre, and he makes it very clear that One Nation isn't trying to get a coalition in the centre of Australian politics. They're trying to chart their own course, and they're not afraid of what they believe in.
I don't like the term sensible centre. You win politics on truth. You win politics on facts. You win politics in an unambiguous explanation of the problems that are before the nation. And, good leaders lead.
Yeah, Tom, we also got the first glimpse inside the party room, or the joint party room, as One Nation came together with Barnaby Joyce for the first time. He was a few minutes late when he eventually got there with Pauline, and they rustled up a seat and they sat down and they talked tactics. I asked Barnaby Joyce, I said to him, "You've played in plenty of football teams and you used to be a bouncer. What's the best way to go about building trust and rapport here?" And he said with a beaming smile, he said, "I normally find the drunkest person in the room and I start talking to them." So you get a sense that they're irreverent. They know who they are. They're not trying to be something else, and voters are flocking.
And I guess the big question is going to be around them staying. We've had a bit of polling, and the first poll we had back on why people are voting One Nation. The number one reason, there were a few around policies in Pauline Hanson, the number one reason was disenchantment with the major parties. Now, some would say, well, it's a fair bet that disenchantment stays, but if they're seen as improving, I guess in particular the Liberal Party, the opposition becomes more united. That'll be the first test, I guess, of that One Nation vote. Did you get a sense for how rusted on, not their, diehard supporters are, but the ones that are recent converts to One Nation?
I think you find there's a lot of people who feel very left behind at the moment, and that includes young people who can't afford families. They're looking for anyone who can make their quality of life better. They're not worried about Pauline Hanson's past or what may or may not have happened to her. They hear somebody who appears to be talking to them, and they're willing to give an outside voice a chance. So that might anger some of the traditional members of the Liberal Party or Conservatives. It might anger some of those on the left-hand side of politics who say, how could you possibly look to Pauline Hanson? But it gives you an insight into just how affected or disenfranchised many people are, that they're looking outside of the major two political parties. And it's happening around the world for good reason, Tom.
Jonathan Lea, thank you. You can watch Rise of One Nation on Sky News this Sunday, 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time.